Before we get into it, probably the biggest thing, the reason why I'm putting this on a personal level is because this is what we see all the time in the fitness industry, right? And in any kind of health pursuit in general, is people really struggle with staying on top of their habits long term, or setting goals more importantly, and then not achieving those goals for whatever that reason might be. And I suppose when anybody sets off on their kind of pursuit of achieving a goal, it's almost like in our heads, we've been conditioned by social media and everything else going on, that we have to, in order to make a change, that it has to be this big life-changing moment that happens and something drastic occurs, and then all of a sudden that's the catalyst that sets us off on this big new journey that we go on to. You know, if you've gone to any Tony Robbins seminars and things like that, that's what it always is, right? It's this big life-altering thing that needs to happen. And I suppose it sounds sexier on Instagram to talk about that stuff than it does the stuff that I'm going to talk about today, which is in actual fact the truth and the reality of this situation is, if you want to build resilient habits that last, if you want to achieve your goals and stick to those goals long term, then it's actually about forming habits and actually layering the 1%ers over a long period of time than it is trying to make these big drastic changes in your life. Okay, so that's probably what we're going to go into today, is looking into habits and looking at those 1%ers and how you can actually just stack and layer small things over time to actually create consistency and create results. So obviously, to kick things off, just explaining a bit about what a habit is, just because it's really important from the perspective of, if you can understand this, it'll really help you set the frame in your mind as to how to create long-term change. So a habit is a behavior or an action that is performed repeatedly in response to a specific cue. And often it's without much conscious thought. In fact, once a habit's ingrained, it becomes autonomous, right? It actually ends up being a part of your subconscious. The brains are really, really clever at being able to discard all the rubbish and be really efficient to help you focus on the things that you perceive as important, okay? So the way I like to kind of talk about neural pathways and habits is, imagine you've got a jungle, okay? There's like vines and bush and all these different things in the way. You starting a new habit is essentially like you standing at the face of that jungle with a machete and then starting to try and carve your way through to create a pathway through, to create a road, okay? The habits that are already in place, the ones that are already autonomous and subconscious, that's like a highway. It's like the jungle went 50 to 100 years ago, you know what I mean? It's constantly being used, it's constantly being driven down, it's constantly being maintained, so therefore the travel is a lot more efficient and easy to travel down that path versus is the jungle. Does that make sense? So this is the really important thing to understand. When you set a goal, there might be 20, 30, 40, 50 habits that are associated with that one goal. And some of those habits are going to be like highways, really easy to go down. And some of those habits are going to be like jungles. It's like you start and you're hacking away at vines and it's really hard to get through. Okay? So bear that in mind as we go through. You've probably heard before, it takes 21 days to form a habit. Who's heard that one? Actually not true. All right, so that's probably one of the little myths that is out there, is that it takes 21 days. It depends, okay? There's a number of reasons as to why a habit might be easier or harder to form. Complexity of the actual task might be one thing. If it's completely alien to you, like you've got no knowledge behind the habit, then it's going to be harder to follow, first of all. You might have competing habits, and some of those competing habits might be highways that you're doing automatically, you're not even thinking about it. And in order to apply the new habit, it's difficult because you constantly keep falling into the subconscious pattern that you've already set up. And we'll talk more about that today. And then a big one that I'm going to spend a lot of time focusing on with you guys today is how does that value align with your actual values and your identity? Okay, because if it's aligned with who you are as a person and your identity at your core, you'll probably find it's a lot easier to follow and maintain because it's just a part of who you are, versus if you're trying to do something that's completely not congruent with who you are as a person. Does that make sense? So some of the research is saying it can take anything from 18 to 254 days to go from habit to turning it into one of those autonomous kind of highways where you can just drive down it easily. All right. So let's look at how we get there. So first of all, what I want you guys to do, let's not make it easy. Let's actually challenge ourselves today. So I want you to actually write down a goal that you've not been able to achieve yet. Okay? So what is a goal that you've got or that you've been working on where you've had a couple of cracks at it and you've not quite made it? You fell off the wagon, life's kicked in, external circumstances, whatever the reasons, it doesn't matter, but there's a goal that you'd really like to achieve, but you've just not quite been able to master it. Write that down. If you haven't got a pen and paper, feel free to use your phone. You will need to journal stuff today, just so you know. And would anyone like to share while we're doing that? Because sharing's always fun. What is a goal that you've had a couple of cracks at, but you've not quite been able to achieve? Nice.
So I think that's it. So unpredictable, and with habits, you want to do them like same time every day to try and form that routine. But
Yeah.
I can't have any sort of routine.
Yeah, right.
I'm trying to work towards that. I don't know.
Yeah.
If there's a goal that's achievable or not.
Cool. Let's explore it, yeah? That's a great one to start with. And definitely one that would be a challenge in this new position that you're in. So, yeah, sustainable exercise. So if we were to get a bit more specific with that, what would sustainable be to you? I mean, like, what would make you feel good? Like, is it a certain amount of times a week? What is it?
I think so, yeah. It would be a certain amount of times in the week. So not necessarily doing it, on a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, because that never works out in life. But
Yeah.
maybe, looking at in a week timeline and saying at least 3 times this
Yeah.
week I want to exercise and try and make it fit in on the days that work for me. It doesn't matter if I have a 4-day gap or whatever, 3-day gap or
Yeah.
3 consecutive days, whatever.
Okay.
Sustainable in that sense, still meeting those goals, but I guess having flexibility in it makes it sustainable long term.
Brilliant. So 3 days a week. Let's start there. That's great. And then is there a minimum time on that? Like, that makes you feel like you're getting something out of it? Is it like, as long as you get 15 minutes in? Is it as long as you get a minimum of an hour? Like,
I would say half an hour to an hour.
okay. So 30 to 60 minutes, 3 times a week. That's what we're looking at. Cool. Love it. What else have we got, team? What's the goal that you've tried to achieve, but you've not quite been able to? Don't make me start picking people.
I'm not sure if it's considered a goal. I mean, like a habit, but I've been always been trying to reduce my screen time. But
That can be a goal. And this is the thing, and I'll get into this as we go. You're going to have, there's a bit of a cross-pollination between goals and habits. Think of your goal as your big rock, and then you're probably going to have multiple habits that come off that goal. So that could be one. I suppose if I was to go, let's try and zoom out a bit, what is the why as to why you want to reduce your screen time?
yeah, probably because I want to do like other things.
Yeah, is it like you want to get more sleep? Is it like, what would that link to?
Yeah, sleep. I think sleep.
Sleep?
I don't know, just like I don't know. I feel like I'm always constantly running out of time, but then in the other part, my screen time.
Okay. So your call, you can either keep the goal that you're trying to work on as reduce screen time, or if you feel like that links into a bigger goal and that'll become a habit later on, then you can switch it around, your call. It might clear up as we kind of move down this process. Awesome. What else? Ange?
Being better organised at home. Like where I've had 5 kids that have all left, they've left so much stuff behind. Like, I've got like 3 dinner sets, just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because I've gone from 6 people to 1 person.
Yeah.
And it's just overwhelming for me. And I start, and I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I've moved a lot of it to the garage. I haven't fixed the problem.
Yeah.
I just relocated it somewhere else. And I go out there and I open it, I go, oh no, and I just close it and pretend like it doesn't exist.
That jungle analogy, it's that, right? It's like you're looking at it going, oh, fuck, I've got these vines to get through. Like, where do I?
Boxes with names on
Yeah.
it, 20 years ago, it's terrifying.
Awesome. That's a good one, Ange, because, yeah, that's great because it's like you've tried a few times, you've done a few things, but you fell off. That's what we want to tap into today because that's the stuff I really want to get into the nitty gritty of. Because if we can work on some of those ones and put some strategies around it, the rest of the goals will be easy, right? Cool. Anyone else want to share before we move on? We're good? All right. So, Before we carry on, I suppose question that I've got is, why do you think you failed? Why do you think you failed at achieving it?
Maybe sometimes set unrealistic timelines,
Yeah.
and then when you don't get there, you're like, give up.
Nice. So unrealistic timelines.
Sometimes it's sort of where do I start?
Yeah. So not having the knowledge of where to start. Yeah. I'm just going to refresh this 1 second. So we've got knowledge, unrealistic timelines. What else?
I think for me, I'm just emotionally not ready to let it go, if I'm really honest.
Okay.
I think like when I'm really like here with the back, I think, you know, I think I'm attached to the memories and stuff.
Yeah. Why is that being strange? Yeah, so being attached to the memories, and that's a really powerful one, Ange, because no, it is. I mean, that'll be the big one as to why you keep, walking into our start and then I walk away from it, start and when I walk away, because on the surface it's like, oh, it's such an easy thing. It's clearing up the house, but then what's actually sitting in the layers under that is actually important to explore, right? All right. So, any other things as to why we might have failed? Because this is a really important little process to go through. So, deeper emotions attached to the goal, underestimating the time. What else? If you think back to, it doesn't even have to be this goal, any goal that you've tried in the past where you've not succeeded, because there's so much richness and gold in the learning experience, right? So it's even in this chat we're doing today, just carving out time in your day. When do you get to do that? When do you get time to just carve out and reflect on, oh, why didn't I achieve that thing? Yeah. So being prepared, yeah. Making it a priority. Why do you think it isn't a priority? Because there's a part of your brain going, I really want to achieve this goal. So you'd think it'd be a priority, right? But then all of a sudden, it falls down the priority list. Could be too hard. Which might be what? Distractions or the other habits that are already in place, yeah? Yeah, awesome. All right, so let's look into it then. I've kind of drilled down some of the main reasons as to why people fail with the habits and therefore the goals. And these 5 reasons I'm going to take you guys through today with strategies and solutions. Okay, so we're just going to tick each one of these off as we go through. But one of the biggest ones, and if you've ever, any of you guys that have done the 21-day do the work program with us, you'll know this is one of the biggest things I talk about all the time. And one of the biggest issues I have, or I see with gyms in general when they run gym challenges, is that they overwhelm people with far too many habits and expect them to be able to stick to that long term. So it's like, yeah, we're going to do a 12-week program or a 21-day program. You go into the program and you're tracking your calories. You're trying to exercise every day. You've got to drink more water. You've got to do this, do this, do this, do this. And then you're trying to follow it all. And it works for the time that you're on the challenge because you've got the support around you and stuff like that. And the people are doing it as well. And then you get to the challenge and what happens? You get to the end of the challenge and what happens? You're spinning all of these plates and it gets to the end and you're like, oh, fuck, and you just drop them all. Yeah? And then all of the old habits come back into play because there's no long-term sustainability. And then let's have a celebration at the end of the challenge and we all go out and get wrecked and have a party to celebrate our results. And then you're back to square one. Okay, and that's why in our challenges, for those that have done our challenges before, you'll know, yes, we definitely load you up on a few habits to kick things off, but it's all about how we can sustain you with those habits long-term afterwards. It's a really, really important point. One of the biggest things I see with lots of people is they just take on too many habits, or they're not specific enough with the goal, and they don't actually realize when you lift the lid on that goal, there's actually 30 or 40 habits associated with it, but you just don't realize that because you're not breaking it down into bite-sized chunks, okay? So we're going to start on that one first, and then I'll work through the rest. So in order to stop that from happening, that goal that we all wrote down as to what we're going to work on, the one that we keep failing on, I want you to write down all of the habits that are associated with that goal. Okay? So for example, for Ange, it might be, not only have I got to carve out time in my week somewhere to clear it, but then I might need to go and buy things. There's so many things that are going to be associated with creating habits to stick into that goal. Okay, so let's get those down. Just make a big list of all of the different behaviors and habits that you'd need to bring in and stick to consistently in order to achieve that goal. And let me know if you need a hand with it. We're happy to workshop this out as well, team. So if you're kind of stuck thinking, I'm not really sure what I need to do, then even that in itself is there's a barrier straight away as to why people don't achieve things, right? You set a goal and then it's like, oh, when I actually think about what I actually need to do this, maybe I don't know. Maybe there's no awareness around what it is I need to do. Who'd like to share their goal and just then break down some of the habits that you've got associated with it, because it'll just help other people get clear on theirs as well. Once you finish writing theirs. What have we got? Anyone want to share? I feel like Cassie's got some good stuff.
So I had like long-term attending a gym 2 to 3 times a week,
Yep.
which I can easily do if I'm not working.
Right.
I was able to do it over the Christmas holidays.
Yep.
But as soon as work starts, then the wheels sort of fall off for me, because that starts in my mind to take priority.
Yep.
So I just had like written down like what I need to do to prepare to have to be able to do that. So
Yeah.
like the first thing was like making sure that I had like gym clothes ready to go, not fishing through finding stuff.
Yep.
Then I had like making sure I had enough sleep, waking up early, because I find going in the morning is usually easier for me, because once I'm at work it's harder for me to leave.
Yep.
And then I had like drinking water, like time management with it. And that was basically where I was.
That's great. That's perfect. Can everyone see that? Like, and what I love about that reflection is there was a time in your life where you were able to stick to that habit perfectly. You turn up to the gym 3 times a week, and then all of a sudden, what changed in your environment that stopped you showing up? And you said it was work, right? Because work is a high value for you, and that's something I can personally relate with. And I'll tell a story on exactly that for me in a second. But then work comes into play. Your environment changes, your priorities change, your habits therefore change, and then that takes precedence over going to the gym, right? So then what you're now able to do, which I really love, is then go, right, well, what changed in that environment, and then how can I kind of layer in some other habits that when work is on actually allow me to get back into the gym. So the big one that I picked up in that was, well, I've got to go in the morning because I'm not going to go in the afternoon. So then you see the domino effect in this, right? All of a sudden it's like, right, I've got to get up in the morning, so I need to go to bed earlier. There's a habit that we've now got to work on. And now you can see why a simple goal like, I just want to train 3 times a week, can be quite difficult when you've got competing values. You now have to layer other new things in that you weren't really thinking about before, like changing your bedtime routine and things like that. Does that make sense? Has everybody else got that stuff down as well? Have you found those things by going through that process? Yeah? Anyone else got any other examples just so we can help bring this out a bit more? Because this is the thing, guys. Most people, they just go, they go to a goal setting workshop. I'm going to set my goals. They're going to be smart goals. I'm going to get really excited about my smart goals, and you walk out and life kicks in. And 7 days in, you're back to square one.
So I said, and this probably has more habits underneath it, but prioritizing sleep, rest, and nourishment to have the energy to be able to
Move.
tackle my goal, which is exercise.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, sleep better, some good habits there, just finding the time to buy, do groceries for healthy food.
Yeah.
Find the time to cook healthy
Yeah.
meals.
It's easy.
Find the time to rest when I'm feeling tired.
Yeah.
Or while having a baby. It's like
Yeah.
to do. And then that's why I don't prioritize it, and I'll just do other things.
Yeah. So the important thing in that is just then pick the big rocks, right? What are the kind of bang for buck items in that will give you the energy so then you can do the thing? Yeah, just make that really easy, and we'll talk about that as we go through. Cool? Everyone got a bit more clarity around the little habit plans so far? Yeah? Awesome. All right. So the goal is, as we go through, you're actually only going to pick 1 or 2 habits max in this workshop. Of course, you can layer and stack as you go, but like to reduce the overwhelm, because already you might be writing all that stuff down and going, holy shit, there's no way I can achieve this goal because there's so many things attached. And that's the point, right? That's why we fall off. So by the end of today, we're going to work through some habit formation techniques, and we're going to just work on one thing. Let's just strip away the overwhelm. Start there, layer it up. Cool? All right, next one is a big one, and I feel like a few of you guys have already spoke to this already, is that your habits aren't aligned with your identity. So we set goals thinking that we want to achieve that goal because that's what we think we want to achieve. And then when we actually drill down into the emotion of it or who you are as a person and look at, well, how does that goal or that habit align with you as who you want to be, your character, your identity? Does that align? Sometimes, because of a change in priorities. So for Robin Lee, for example, exercising before being a mum is a whole different world to when you are a completely new person in terms of your identity. Now you are a mum. Your values shift, your priorities shift, your world changes. So there's no way you can go back to that same goal of exercising with the old mindset because there's just a misalignment. It's not going to work, which is awesome that you've come to this point, right? Because it's about creating like that new habit that relates to the goal under your new identity, which is important. This is probably one of the biggest ones for me, and having worked in the fitness industry for about 15 years now, it was always easy for me to exercise because I was always in the gym. So I started off, I finished my degree, and I went straight to working as a personal trainer in a gym. And you think about the environment of that, right? My identity, my career is built around being a personal trainer working in a gym. My commute every day, when work gets in the way, there's no work barrier because my work is at the gym. So my whole identity is evolved around working out. And this is one of the things that actually really shits me about social media is you get people that are in my position or that position jumping on social media and going, guys, exercise is just a choice. It's easy to exercise, you just got to prioritize it. We've no idea of the fact that we've got different priorities. We're a mum, we're a father, we're, whatever it is, we've got a career that we actually prioritize really high. And as much as we want to be healthy, sometimes being healthy is still a competing value with some other important things in our lives. And I didn't really truly get that message, actually, until I stopped working in a gym and I opened my first business. So I opened a business before we opened therapy in personalized health, and I was educating, so I was flying around a lot, training other health professionals and personal trainers. I wasn't working in a gym. I was working from home. All of our offices were at home. So my whole world shifted in terms of my environment, right? In terms of the habit of exercise. It wasn't easy for me to get to the gym anymore. It wasn't important actually for me to get to the gym at that time because my identity and my values changed, because for me, my career, my business was a really, really top priority. So I actually stopped training, and I found it really, really hard to find the motivation to train. And that was a big, big like identity clash for me, because I was still working in health. I was still training personal trainers, yet I felt a bit of a fraud because I wasn't training enough myself. And I found it really hard to do that. And I'd go to the gym and I'd try and get back on the wagon, and I'd get a couple of sessions in and I'd fall off, and I'd do the whole thing of schedule it in your calendar like a meeting, like people say. And I'd put it in the calendar, and then I'd just bump it down the calendar because work things were more important. Because that was who I was. My identity and my values were built around my career at that time. And that was far more important to me than going to the gym, even though I knew the health benefits of going to the gym. But this was the big thing, right? The big thing was my old goal or my old reason for going to the gym was to build muscle. That's what I always did. If I build muscle, I look the part, I'm a PT, I feel good, I look good, and that was it, right? And that goal, that why behind the goal, worked when I was a personal trainer. It didn't work when I was a business owner, and deep down, I didn't really give a shit about building more muscle. Do you know what I mean? But I thought I did. I thought that's what I wanted. So I was trying to go back to the gym. Come on, Kyle, you need to get back to the gym and build muscle. And I'd go in and yeah, get a couple of sessions in, but again, it wasn't important enough so it'd fall off. And in actual fact, it's only since opening therapy and realizing the importance of exercise for mental health, and then feeling the shift of when I train, my brain feels better, and I'm less stressed, and I'm less shitty of a person, and I'm more tolerant of stress. And in actual fact, when I exercise, I turn up here as a better person for you guys. Once I made that connection, my motivation and my consistency to exercise have gone through the roof. Because now my motivation to exercise isn't to build muscle. My motivation to exercise is to improve my mental health, so I turn up as a better business person for the community of therapy. Because my identity is built around, my highest values are built around therapy, my career, the business. So I had to rejig and reshape what exercise meant to me in order to make it important enough so I stuck to it. Does that make sense to everyone? So as an example now, like on a Tuesday, one of my biggest days here is a Tuesday, right? I'm up at like 4:15, work through the morning, I do a lunchtime class. I have literally probably a 3-hour gap between 1 and 4, and then I'm back in here at the night time. And what I used to do, because workaholic Kyle loves it, would go home and I'd just carry on working through the afternoon and then come back in at night time. And I could get away with that probably for the first year, but now it's starting to catch up on me, right? And going through this process myself of like realigning values and just understanding through awareness of what exercise does for me, what I've started doing recently is going, right, rather than sitting there and half-arsing work because I'm tired because I've already done a full mornings of work, why don't I use that 2 hours now to instead go out for a run? And then when I come back from that run, I'm probably going to feel better. I'm going to have more energy. I'm going to be less stressed. And then when I come in here at night time, I'm going to be a better human for you guys. And that reframe of why I'm exercising has been the biggest game changer in terms of what it's doing to support my motivation and consistency to turn up to exercise. Because just building muscle isn't good enough. It isn't for me anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's too superficial. And this is what so many people do. They set these superficial reasons as to why they want to exercise or eat better or whatever it is, to lose weight or whatever it might be. And don't get me wrong, for some people that might be the core reason. But when we actually drill down into it, there's probably more there, yeah? So, game changer. So that's what I want you to take you guys through now is actually let's get into the core of your identity and why you're trying to achieve this goal and why you want to do these habits. Because if we can create some real alignment and importance around that, as it says at the bottom there, the ultimate form of intrinsic motivation is when a habit becomes a part of your identity. Because you're not doing it for the outcome, you're doing it because it's who you are. Does that make sense? So important. Okay? So, imagine your ideal self 10 years from now. Have a bit of a moment, take a breath, close your eyes if you want to, and you're going to complete the sentence multiple times. I am the person who. So 10 years from now, you're forecasting as to who you are, who that person is, and I want you to write down, I am the person who. It could be anything. And repeat that sentence and just write down different statements. It might be, I am the person that is resilient. I am the person that shows up to exercise 3 times a week. I am the person that follows through on the things that I say I'm going to follow through on. I am the person that has lots of energy. What have we got, team? Who wants to share some of their statements or their examples? I am the person who. Amazing. Love that, Robin Lee. Happy, content, fulfilled. What else, team? And like I said, feel free to repeat it a number of times in different sentences. It could be really simple things like, I'm the person who eats healthy. I'm the person who exercises. Doesn't have to be the deep stuff all the time, but it can be. Have we all got something down? So what have we got? You want to share? I'll start picking people. It's going to happen. I'm not just talking today. You guys are talking too. Nice. I'm taking that one as well. I'm stealing that one. I like it. Go on, Sarah. It's fine. It does to, as long as it does to you.
It does to me. Because my goal is reading throughout this whole session already. I am the person who places value in myself in both work and out of work areas.
Nice. Love it. I'm also stealing that one as well. It's the journey I'm on as well. What else? Go on, Em.
I am the person who has radiant and magnetic energy.
Like it. It's a good one. Brilliant. All right, so when you think of that person 10 years from now, and you think about those traits and those characteristics and those things that you want, who you are, not that what you want, but actually who you are, and then you look at the goal that you've been trying to achieve, first question, does it align? Or has it been aligning? Because if you're like me and you were trying to set a goal with an outdated motivation based on an outdated identity, then we need to switch that up. So if the answer is no, then the question would be, what do you need to change within that goal to make it align with the that identity that you're talking about, the person that you want to become. So if you're changing the goal, change the goal now. That's the first thing. If you're keeping the goal the same, I want you to do a bit of digging behind the why to see if the why needs to shift, just like my why had to shift, okay? So I just want you to do a little exercise. So you're just going to do 5 whys on that goal. So 1, if you need to change your goal, change it. Because there's the reason why it wasn't working. It's because it was the wrong goal. It's not actually what you wanted, which is great. That is an amazing bit of awareness to have, because now you're not chasing other people's goals based on other people's expectations. But 2, whatever the goal is, let's just dig into understanding the deeper reason as to why we're trying to achieve it. So I want you to 5 why the goal, which means, so if you're saying I want to declutter and organize the house, it's like, well, why is that important? And then you're going to say, because it's stressful. Why is it important that you reduce stress? Yeah, mental health, think clearer.
Sometimes I look out there and honestly, I can almost feel like a punch in the head. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
can't deal with it.
So why is it important that you can think clear and have better mental health?
Because I want to, I sort of feel like I'm stuck in a time warp where I've been like a mum for so long.
Yeah.
And like, they don't need me anymore.
Yeah.
I'm trying to like even create reasons so they still need me. I know they're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just having so much trouble remembering who I was, because I got married when I was 16, so there's been this huge part of my life where I've just been raising kids,
Yeah.
1 year on, 1 year off, like pregnant for like 10 years, and the
Yeah.
whole thing, and now I'm at the end of it. They're all self-sufficient. They
Yeah.
don't need me, and I haven't put any time into who I am. So I've just completely lost that part.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like get that part back.
Yeah. So it's 100%. So the big why there is you're trying to give time back to you, put yourself first, find out who you are. Yeah.
Like, I've got through it.
Yeah.
They're all great. I've done the job, but now I don't know what to do.
Yeah. Do you see the difference in that, though, guys? We've gone from we just need to tidy the house to, well, no, in actual fact, I'm doing this because I'm trying to come back to finding out who I am and putting myself first and giving my time back.
Well, I know I'm hanging on to stuff, and I know
Yeah.
it's unhealthy, but I also like struggle to let it go.
Yeah.
I even try to give it to them, and they're like, "No, we don't want this shit." I'm like, "What should birth for?" They're like, "No, what about it?"
Yeah. 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 That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Ange. That's great. Yeah. So same to you guys, yeah? Like, why it 5 times? Like, if you're going, because I want more energy, it's like, well, why do you want more energy? Well, let's just dig into it and find out what that deeper motivation is. And again, we're constantly comparing it to this. Does that reason come back to this? Is it helping you become this person? If it is, great. If it's not, again, I'll change it. Otherwise, it's never going to be important enough. It's never going to be a deeper intrinsic reason enough for you to want to change. Actually going good for time for once. Unbelievable. Usually I'm trying to cram in 5 hours of workshop in an hour and a half. Don't worry, there's still plenty to get through. Do we all have something down? Anyone want to share their deeper why? Or any light bulbs that have just popped up by going through this process?
My goal seems a bit riding my bike to work.
Mhm.
Sorry, nervous public speaker. And then the 10 years from now, it's for moving my body in a way that's not structured exercise.
Yeah,
Um,
I like that.
Financial reasons and environmental reasons, which all, sorry,
That's all right. Yeah.
so silly.
No, not at all. So with that first goal, because it's totally cool to have a small goal. Like, it's if not, sometimes it's actually even better to work on. So repeat that first goal again. So that's
So I want to be able to ride my bike to work.
yeah. And then when you thought about the habits that were kind of layered into that, did you get down
Yeah, just
different
like
habits?
anxiety of being on the road and
Yeah.
feeling like less now, but because I've probably started this habit, is like the fitness aspect of it.
Yeah. Which you're crushing, by the way.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah, so they're probably the big things that have stopped me.
Mm.
But then it's like, why do I want to do it?
Yeah.
It's like probably not been like, I mean, it's little, so like,
But it's still like you say, speaks to the bigger thing, right? Which is you want to, like when you said in 10 years from now you want to have more like unstructured movement. Like what? Tell me a bit more about that. Like why is that such a?
that, like I've been quite historically been like all or nothing,
Yeah.
and just finding a bit better balance in being like, I can do something to move my body, but it doesn't have to be like 2 hours of exercise.
Yeah. And I suppose that, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it sounds like it's coming more from a place of like just that relationship with exercise. Is you just move when you want to move. You enjoy moving, like
Rather than it having to be like scheduled and
yeah,
with a goal and with like just like a bit more ingrained in
Yeah.
life.
yeah. So it's just moving because it's a part of
Yeah.
you. Yeah, great. And then why? Why is it important that that's a part of who you are?
Things like just getting away from that structure and it being all or nothing. And,
Yeah,
yeah, confidence, I guess.
Yeah.
As well.
yeah. Love it. That's awesome. Thank you.
No worries.
Yeah, great. Anyone else? So we'll layer through that as we go, yeah? That'll start coming together when we go through this next bit. And it's totally fine that it's a smaller goal. It doesn't have to be this grand, let's all Tony Robbins it up and change our lives in a 90-minute workshop. It's actually important that we work on the smaller things because as you'll see, it'll layer into the other stuff anyway. Yeah. And you can repeat this, right? As many times as you want on different goals. What else? One more.
Mine's actually to be more productive in less hours. And the why is so I can make more time to do other things that I enjoy rather than work.
Yeah, right.
And then like the further why is obviously because when I get to do that, then my mental health is much better.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spend that many hours in my day doing work. If I could actually get whatever work that I'm doing in that many hours in less hours.
Yeah. So this was that I am the person who is productive, like with work time, with workload. Is that kind of the things that you had down for that one? Yeah. Cool. Do we all feel as though through going through this, that the goal that we set and the habits that we need to work on to achieve the goal align with this person that we want to become? I suppose that's the only thing I want you to get from this is that you actually feel like the goal is congruent, it's authentic, it's a part of who you are, because then you've got this intrinsic drive as in like, oh, I actually want to be that person. So if I want to be that person, then that person does these things. Does that marry up for everyone? And if it doesn't, does anybody need any help or want to like question it and talk it out? We good? Cool. If you want to chat to me afterwards, please feel free. If you want to work through anything, because that's probably one of the biggest ones, guys. Like, if it's not congruent, you're just going to keep banging your head against a brick wall trying to achieve something that either A, you don't want to achieve, because it's not actually a part of what it is you're trying to become, or B, you're